Hello, I'm Vicki Bastecki-Perez, President of Montgomery County Community College. I'd like to welcome nearly 100 regional attendees who are joining us today for our panel discussion about employee stock ownership plans and the launch of the Baker Center of Excellence for Employee Ownership and Business Transformation. The Baker Center of Excellence is an innovative catalyst that will be a driving force in the economic recovery for businesses and their employees in the greater Philadelphia region. Through educational programs and resources, the Baker Center of Excellence will support the transformation and growth of businesses and strengthen the workforce through promoting inclusivity, social mobility, and generational wealth. We are extremely thankful for Ken Baker's generous gift of $3 million, the largest gift in the college's 56-year history, for the creation of the Baker Center of Excellence. We are very grateful for his support and others like him who believe in investing in the work and the mission at Montgomery County Community College. I also would like to thank our panelists for sharing their expertise and perspectives on the benefits of employee stock ownership plans, or ESOPs. I look forward to our discussion today and the launch of this valuable asset for businesses and employees. With that, it's my privilege to hand the floor over to State Representative Napoleon Nelson. Representative Nelson has served on the Board of Trustees at Montgomery County Community College since 2018, and we thank him for joining us here today. Representative Nelson.
Thank you so much, Madam President, and thank you all for joining us. Again, on behalf of the board and on behalf of the delegation in Harrisburg, I am thrilled to not only join us all in community, but I'm thrilled to be able to do it on behalf of both our students, our entrepreneurs, and our many future business owners in celebrating the opening of this Baker Center. Employee stock ownership programs are important. They're a vital aspect of how we envision our economy bouncing back from this pandemic, how we envision bridging gaps in economic disadvantage, and how we make sure that our futures are much brighter and more equitable than what we have seen in the past. This is vital for our communities. It is vital for our community colleges to be able to take a leading role in this and to be able to do so in partnership with our alumni base and with particular partnership with Mr. Baker is an absolute joy. I look forward to representing both the community college and programs just like these and business owners, just like not only the CEOs and the families that are running these businesses, but the future employees who will come to take ownership of those businesses that they are currently operating. That shared ownership and shared vision is vital for us all, not only as a community, but for those businesses and for our services within each of our neighborhoods. It's an absolute pleasure to have you all join us, and I too look forward to this amazing conversation. Thank you for your trust, and thank you for participating today.
Thank you, Representative Nelson, and thank you, President Dr. Bastecki-Perez. I welcome everyone to our panel conversation today, how ESOPs can unlock success for your business and transform our communities. We are thrilled to be able to have an excellent panel gathered here for you today. I'm Kyle Longacre. I am the Dean of Workforce and Economic Development here at Montgomery County Community College, and I join an outstanding team of leaders, educators, workforce professionals, and many, many community partners throughout Montgomery County and throughout our region in celebrating this event. We've gathered for you today a range of panelists with expertise in this area that have wonderful stories to be able to tell. And it is my pleasure to be able to help facilitate this panel and help you as an audience learn more about how employee stock ownership plans can be such a benefit and how our Baker Center is going to be really a beacon of light in telling this story, sharing wisdom, and helping to convene many more conversations in the future. So we look forward to this, and I'll introduce our panelists at this time, and I encourage them to have their cameras on. First off, we have Ken Baker. Ken is our is CEO at New Age Industries. He is an entrepreneur building a tubing, hose, and fitting manufacturing company. New Age Industries is 100% employee-owned ESOP, based in Southampton, PA, just on the border of Montgomery County. Ken is co-founder and chairman of the Pennsylvania Center for Employee Ownership, or PACEO, which is an organization created to promote employee ownership in Pennsylvania. He's also on the board of directors at EOAX, Employee Ownership Expansion Network, taking the PACEO State Center model countrywide. He is also a board member of the Montgomery County Community College Foundation. It is through Ken's generosity and vision that we are able to create this center of excellence here at Montgomery County Community College. So welcome, Ken. Introduce Ed Renninger as well. Ed is president and CEO of SES ESOP Strategies, based in Bala Cynwyd, PA, with offices in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Texas, Ohio, Colorado, and Massachusetts. He serves as co-chair of the ESOP Group and Employee Benefits and Executive Compensation Group at Stevens & Lee, an affiliated company of SES ESOP Strategies. He concentrates his practice in helping companies navigate the complexities of employee stock ownership plans, and in this capacity, Ed advises business owners on how to sell their companies to employees through an ESOP. Also like to welcome Dave Zellers. Dave is the Director of Commerce for Montgomery County. Dave oversees a combined economic and workforce development initiative with a focus on improving the vitality and vibrancy of Montgomery County. Dave works with stakeholders to enhance awareness of business, educational, quality of life, and career opportunities. He advises municipalities on local economic development, community revitalization, and redevelopment possibilities. Dave is also focused on building partnerships, developing strategies, and promoting Montgomery County as a place to live, work, learn, and invest. And we're thrilled to have Dave with us today as well. Paul Johnson is assistant professor of marketing and management at Montgomery County Community College. He teaches entrepreneurship and has helped and launched several startup businesses. A native Philadelphian, Paul earned his Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and a Master's in Business Administration from Drexel University. Paul had a 20-year career in corporate sales for local and national companies, including Xerox, and enjoys his role in helping to educate the next generation of business professionals. He serves as a volunteer and a board member for several organizations throughout the Delaware Valley, including serving as a youth baseball coach for over 30 years. Welcome, Paul. And finally, Ford Smith. Ford is an estimator and employee owner at IT Landis, based out of Harleysville, here in Montgomery County. IT Landis provides commercial HVAC, plumbing, and industrial mechanical services, as well as residential plumbing, heating, and cooling services through IT Landis Home Services. IT Landis is a division of employee-owned HB Global, based in Harrisburg, with divisions in Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Florida, and Arizona. Ford is a graduate of Penn State University with a degree in architectural engineering. So welcome to all of our panelists. We're thrilled that you're able to gather with us today, and we look forward to hearing from you. We're going to do basically 2 rounds of questions. And as we go into this, in this first round, we really want to be able to take a bigger picture overview of ESOPs and what this looks like. And Ken, we're going to start with you. Ken, you have a fascinating history with ESOPs. There's no doubt about it. You have many stories to tell, and we just so looking forward to hearing from you. Talk to us about how you learned about ESOPs and how this ownership model transformed your business and your success.
Well, thank you. And thank you to Montgo and the panel for participating in this event. My journey with ESOP started in the mid-90s when I went to a seminar out in Chicago. And it was a 2-day seminar, and it really talked about what an employee-owned company can transform an organization. And I've always wanted to have a high-performance company. And I thought that if I didn't give ownership in the company to the employees, I wouldn't get a high-performance company, because there's a difference between an employee and an employee owner. I tend to think that an employee owner tends to deal with the company a bit differently than just an employee. So at the time, my brother was working for the company. My father had majority shares. So I had to buy out my brother, and then later I bought out my father. And then in 2006, I sold 30% of of my shares of New Age to the employees. And this was the start of my journey. So we've been an ESOP now for call it 15 years, 16 years, and it's been very successful. And it has actually done a lot of what I've been trying to do, which is change income inequality within America, which has really caused a lot of problems. I've looked at what happens with private equity and what happens to companies that do get sold to private equity. And I wanted to actually deal with this idea of capitalism. You know, a famous person said, capitalism is great, but we just don't have enough capitalists. And employee ownership really, it actually puts capitalism in the hands of employees, and that transforms a company. So that gives you a little bit idea of my journey.
Thank you, Ken. Ed, we're going to come to you here and give us some national and regional context for ESOPs. And what is it about Montgomery County business landscape that make it ripe for transformation through ESOPs, through these employee stock ownership plans?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kyle, and I'm happy to be on this panel with this great group of people. And thank you, Ken, for what you're doing for setting up the Baker Center. It's a fantastic opportunity. But that right there, Kyle, is one example on why Montgomery County could really be a beacon for employee ownership throughout the country. It is really what's going on there at the Baker Center. But in addition to that, right, what you have in Montgomery County is you've got a lot of an interesting confluence of a lot of very successful businesses that have, I'm going to be a little categorical here that is hard to quantify, but a desire to benefit the community as a whole. There's kind of deep roots in the community throughout a lot of the companies that we work with, where this desire to give back to the community and be a part of the community is a pervasive part of kind of the mindset that we experience on a regular basis. And so you combine that mindset with the concept of employee ownership, and it tends to be very, very powerful. You mentioned IT Landis. That's an example of a company where that was important. There's a company called Godshall's Quality Meats, which is in Montgomery County, that has a similar mindset and set up their ESOP, the same way you see Ken and what they're doing at New Age Industries. This idea to keep the jobs local, to give back to the community, and ESOPs are very good at that. When you look statistically at the wealth that is created for employee owners through an ESOP, it is material compared to non-ESOP owned companies. Just one statistic I'll throw out there, for example, when they've studied this nationally, when you look at the retirement wealth that employee owners have at ESOP companies, and you compare that to the retirement wealth that people at non-ESOP companies have, it's 2.5 times larger retirement wealth. And that's because the ESOP ultimately benefits them. The capital that would have flowed to just one or two owners, or owners that aren't even involved in the community, now stays in the community. That wealth is in the community to be given back when they retire and they start receiving value for their shares. So it's a very powerful thing. So you combine all that, and plus you've got a deep bench of professionals in Montgomery County. Our head office is in Ballackinwood, and so we're regularly in the market talking to business owners about stuff. So you combine the technical expertise along with the mindset in the community, what's going on at the Baker Center, and Montgomery County is poised, I think, to be a leader when it comes to continuing employee ownership throughout the country.
Ed and Kyle, let me give you a statistic also about distribution of wealth. We have now 32 millionaires working here at New Age. That's out of 240 employees. So, and that's a retirement benefit. So we have done a pretty good job with dispersing wealth throughout the whole organization.
Ed, Ken, thank you. Great examples and great context for us to work from. Dave, I want to come over to you as Director of Commerce here for the county. I'm on many calls with you as you're talking with all the chamber leaders, as you're definitely in the many conversations. As you look at how our economy and our communities are rebuilding in the post-COVID world, what role do you think ESOPs can play in aiding and accelerating this recovery?
Well, first of all, thank you, Kyle, and thank you everybody for the opportunity to be here today. I appreciate it. And I'll start 100% echoing what both Ken and Ed have already said, particularly in regards to the importance of building wealth in a community. That has a really transformational impact over time and in the immediate. But more than that, and I think, from a broader perspective, one of the things that we're always looking for in our work at the Commerce Department as we are trying to retain and attract businesses here are stories of success. Local ownership is always a story of success. Local growth is always a story of success. And when you have folks who are able to make those investments to grow their business here, to see it transition generation to generation of owners here, that is something that's a powerful narrative. It's an attractive narrative to those that haven't quite figured it out yet or are looking for the ways to do that, or to those that are thinking about making a move to somewhere else to plant their flag and see that kind of growth and opportunity and success. So there's a real power to that narrative. And another thing too, I'll say, I think from a community side, communities come over time to identify themselves with the employers that are there. There's an intrinsic link. I'm sure everybody can think of the place where they grew up, and there were always a couple companies that you just knew, and they were there, and they were really part of the firmament of the community. And these kind of structures only add weight to that connection, and again allow for longer term wealth, generational wealth, the kind of things that really do transform and build communities over time.
Thanks, Dave. And we so appreciate the work that you're doing here within the county and the many workforce and economic development partners that are invested in these efforts. But I appreciate those words and how ESOPs can support it. I want to turn to Ford Smith here with IT Landis to get an employee owner perspective. Ford, can you give us a little bit, what is your background and prior to joining IT Landis, the ESOP company, employee-owned company, and then how has coming to work for an ESOP impacted your career, your family, and your future outlook?
Sure, thanks. Kyle, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this panel. Ken, I think it's great what you're doing with the college. I think it's a good learning thing for the students or whoever wants to learn businesses, mind you. So I went to college, did the engineering thing. I wasn't quite ready to sit behind a computer. So I worked for a mechanical sprinkler company and did a lot of work in the Allentown area, ran a lot of prevailing wage work. Was looking for something to kind of put my roots down. So I was running a job. There was a guy from IT Landis there and just started kind of, talking to him on the site, and he was telling me about their employee owned. This was pretty new in the venture. So I kind of started looking into it and got a hold of Matt Benner, who is operations in the commercial side, and started talking to him. And I came here. I think there's a lot of benefits to ESOP. I was getting married, thinking about having kids. There's a lot of money to make in prevailing wage, but it's very, it fluctuates a lot. You could be really good at it and get a lot of prevailing wage, or you could be really bad at it and be laid off for 3-4 months of the year. And I was looking for a place to come and not be laid off, looking for a place to retire from. And IT Landis so far has filled everything that they've ever said they were going to do. It's a great company to work for. Being an ESOP company, it's great. Everything's open book. You ask any question all the way up to the CEO of the company, they'll answer it as best as they can. And the potential of retiring from a company like this is great. You put in a lot of work and you get a lot of benefits out of it. And that just goes to show what, Ken has done with his company and 32 millionaires. That's great. That's a great success story. And that's kind of why I jumped on the ship, because I want to be a part of one of those success stories.
Thank you, Ford. Now let's turn to the community college. Let's bring it home here, Paul. Paul, can you talk us about how Montgomery County Community College, and why it makes sense for the principles of ESOPs to be taught at this particular community college, And how have you included this content on ESOPs in the past? And what can you explain on that?
Thank you for inviting me to be on this panel with great government, industry, and business leaders. I'm really pleased to be here. So I'm going to kind of look at it from a 30,000-foot level, talk about the college a little bit. The college provides lifelong learning with dual enrollment, first-time and returning students, and also mid-career learners, credit and non-credit. And we even have life experience seniors. I had octogenarian, I think that's how you say it, in one of my classes, just because they were motivated and intensely wanted to keep on learning. We have a business education programs that provide degrees for transfer, professional programs for career tracks, and certificate programs for a lot of different needs. And the college is a strong partner to help our individuals and businesses grow. The college, we support entrepreneurship. We almost embed it in a lot of our courses. We support business growth, credit and non-credit, workforce development, obviously. And we support innovation. Several years ago, maybe about, I think my first semester here, I received an email about a gentleman named Ken Baker who wanted to come to classrooms and share his experiences. And I took the college up on that opportunity, and it's been a great relationship since then. So every semester, he comes to my face-to-face classes. I think he's even been to Pottstown, but usually my classes are in Bluebell. And we had to pivot in this pandemic, and he's visited my classes remotely. And he shared his experience about ESOPs. So recently, or all throughout, ESOPs have been integrated in my Marketing 111 classes, which is Principles of Marketing, through his visits to my class, but also we've also incorporated into our marketing plan. I asked the students to create a business. They have to create a marketing plan for that business that they're starting up. And I asked them the question of, would they consider ESOP as a model for the business that they're developing? And they have to explain why or why not. Or would they consider it sometime in the future? I also have a Management 111 course, which is Principles of Management, and they do a strategic management plan. And once again, I asked them to explore the option of looking at the ESOP. And if they do an ESOP, they have to do some type of visual promotion within the company to promote the benefits of ESOP to the stakeholder employers. Just recently, we've talked to our entrepreneurship management. I'm used to using these acronyms. Our entrepreneurship management and marketing faculty, and many of them have voluntarily incorporated the ESOP model into their courses, and we pretty much have it across the board in our Entrepreneurship 110, which is Entrepreneurship Essentials, and our Management 110 course, which is Introduction to Business.
Thank you, Paul, and great examples of what you've been doing, and excited to think about what this can look like moving forward for yourself and the classes that you're teaching, for other programs, and then just for a much, much broader audience of businesses, business leaders, individuals, like you mentioned, the multi-generations that we're talking about, and how the Baker Center can be able to be a center and a hub for expertise within this, and to help convene these conversations. And I want to get to this a little bit more, and as we come back around here, I want to look at just, Ken, when we look at the Baker Center, we envision it in supporting employee owners, businesses, students. How did you come to the idea, sponsoring the Baker Center of Excellence for employee ownership and business transformation? And what is your hope for this Center of Excellence that it will provide for the region and beyond?
Well, my hope is that we are able to educate a lot of selling shareholders like myself, as well as employees of companies, about the benefits and the structure and the rules of ESOPs. And we create a lot more of these in Montgomery County, as well as in Pennsylvania. I just think it is absolutely the best business model out there. There is really no other business model which has all the benefits and features that an ESOP has. Let's take one example. before 2019, I owned 51% of the company. I had sold 49% of the shares to the employees, to the ESOP trust. So I was in total control of the organization, owning 51%, and I could really do anything I wanted to. And there's really no business model out there where you could you could take 49% of money off and still have total control of it, and also have tremendous amount of tax benefits on that 49%. It is a remarkable business model that was created back in the 1970s as part of the ERISA law, and I'm really hopeful that we can get a lot more ESOPs in Pennsylvania and really in Montgomery County.
Thanks, Ken. And that picks up exactly, Ed, where I want to go here. You know, how might the Baker Center help to advance the case for more businesses to apply for alternative ownership structures like ESOPs? What could be done here?
Good question, Kyle. You know, all I deal with is ESOPs. So I see new ESOPs being formed all the time. It's my entire life, and I do it because I'm passionate about it. But the reality is that the headwinds, if you will, the thing that makes it hard for us to do ESOPs is misinformation. A lot of business owners don't understand what an ESOP is. They don't understand the benefits. They don't understand how it works. The investment bankers that get hired to sell businesses don't want to do ESOPs because they make more money selling to a third party. The private equity firms that are buying all the businesses don't want ESOPs because they want to buy the businesses and they want to own them and get the benefits. So society is kind of geared toward not doing an ESOP by the nature of where the money is and who gets paid on these transactions. And so our biggest competition is it's not an owner who is seriously considering an ESOP and figuring out whether he wants to do an ESOP or something else. It's an owner that we never have a chance to talk to because they are not aware of an ESOP and they don't recognize that it's a viable alternative to selling a business to a third party. So to the extent that the Baker Center can help educate all the students that as they start going into the workforce, that they can bring that message into the community, then the workforces that they're employed by, and to the extent that the entrepreneurs who are running businesses become more aware of it, and the Baker Center is part of that process, that's really valuable. That's going to be really valuable for the county because we're going to have more ESOPs. It's going to keep more wealth in the county. It's going to keep more employees in the county. It's going to keep more businesses in the county. And it's ultimately really, really valuable for the employees. So it's really education, getting that message out so that we can overcome some of that competition that we don't even have a chance to compete against.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. And Dave, I want to come back to you here again from the county perspective. You work extensively with our leaders. We have quite a few chambers of commerce here within Montgomery County. They're all serving industries, including businesses, small, mid-size, and large. How do you see the Baker Center of Excellence being beneficial to the broader community, and how can successful employee owners impact our regional economic development?
It's an exciting opportunity. Anytime that you have the ability to bring together and promote a critical mass of expertise, that's a game changer. And it's a real competition between regions to have these kind of critical masses, if you will. That, we as a region right now are working to reposition ourselves globally. And part of doing that is again, you need to be able to collect that expertise, whatever it might be, for whatever you're trying to achieve. A tech economy, a life sciences economy, an economy where employee ownership and participation is a huge part of what you're trying to build. And it really does that. Those are the things that move the needle and are going to give us the advantages that we need moving forward to be competitive in a global economy. Particularly here, I mean, I think, people often forget or don't realize Montgomery County has been a leader in manufacturing for many years. We have the most manufacturing jobs in the Commonwealth, and we really are, any opportunity as those manufacturers have, again, to recruit employees, to help their employees grow in their professions, and ultimately to keep those companies here, keep them local, like we've all been talking about today. It just makes for a more competitive region overall. And that is really, like I said, very exciting and very important for us to continue to position ourselves to be leaders, not just domestically, but truly in a global environment.
Thanks, Dave. And for the whole panel here, I'm going to plant a seed of we're going to ask two more questions, but I'm going to plant the seed just for our own thinking as we keep moving forward here. We want to use the word momentum. And we want to talk about, this is a key theme within Montgomery County Community College. And I want to, as we conclude our second round of questions here, I want you thinking about how do we get things in motion? How do we get things going and see what it looks like? But let me go back to Ford and to Paul yet with two additional questions on this. Ford, how does working as an employee owner impact your day-to-day perspective? Again, this is as an individual and your department goals, your KPIs, your key performance indicators. How is this taught within your company? And how could this type of teaching through the Baker Center of Excellence be valuable to others in their workplaces?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how it affects me on a day-to-day basis, or how it would affect anybody in an ESOP on their day-to-day basis, is there's something to say about putting a little bit more pride in your work when your company profits and the profits go directly to the employee owners. And it's no secret, it's hard to come by, really good help nowadays. And I think that kind of ties into the Baker Center and being a little bit more of an educational area with trying to get some of these younger students that don't really, might know what they want to do in life yet. Maybe they're on the fence working in an office, maybe they're on the fence coming into the trades, but at least the Baker Center will give them an idea on, this is an ESOP. If you put a lot of time and effort into your skill set or your trade or your profession, you're gonna reap the benefits of that. And I think it's a good thing. And just around here, like I said in the prior question, everything is open book. So if you want to learn something, I know we constantly have trainings, business classes set up, anything that you would need. Even if we don't have it, you go to our president Kern and ask him, and he'll set it up. If there's enough people that are willing to learn about it, they'll make it happen. But I think the Baker Center is a good thing with trying to educate people, because not everybody's going to understand. You get to being a millionaire by being a part of an ESOP. They don't maybe quite understand what happens in between. To get there, you have to put in the work, and your company's got to profit on jobs. You got to turn over jobs at a good rate. Anything. I mean, if you don't, then your ESOP's not going to be as valuable or as high as it's going to be. So I think education, especially in the younger generation coming up into the trades or into manufacturing, I mean, let's be honest, they're the jobs that kind of run the world. I mean, without jobs like that, I mean, you really don't have a lot of anything. So I think education, especially with the younger people coming up and letting them learn about it, it's a good thing. I think you're going to start to see a turn in this kind of work.
Ford, thank you. And Paul, you're hearing Ford's comments, you're hearing his perspective from IT Landis, you're hearing Ken's perspective with his company, New Age Industries. For ESOP leaders, why is it important for students to learn about these alternative business structures like ESOPs? And then how can the Baker Center empower students' success in their business?
Well, like Ford, a lot of our students, or many of the students I see in my classes, are Generation Y and Generation Z. They're coming to school, they're going to transfer to a 4-year school, or they're going to try and enter the workforce shortly after completing their courses, or maybe they're a mid-career professional or maybe they suspended their education and they're re-entering the workforce, or they want to advance in their career, in their careers. I heard a slogan a while ago, and I guess I'm dating myself. An educated consumer is our best customer. Sims Suits, if anybody knows about that. While this age demographics, this Generation Y and Generation Z, is an educated consumer. They're vigilant in knowing and understanding the social and environmental impacts of the companies of where they purchase their products and services from. And on the flip side, we talk about them being knowledgeable about the companies where they make their buying decisions. I think they're going to make their buying decisions as far as where they're going to work as well. I think employers are going to have to differentiate their career opportunities beyond just having a dry cleaner or a handball court on their corporate campus like Google and Amazon. And, those are out on the West Coast. And Dave spoke about us competing on a global level. Ken spoke about generational wealth, and Ford talked about looking more at a career more strategically. So I think that businesses need to differentiate themselves, or organizations need to differentiate themselves as far as a place for these generations to work. And I think ESOPs satisfy that need. They build wealth, they provide a sense of purpose and pride through the work. And more importantly, the students that we have today, in a few years, are eventually going to be those C-level executives, the CFOs, the CEOs, the business owners. I can't tell you how many students are coming into my classes that either already have a business or they want to start a business. So these types of business owners, or these types of future C-level executives, could explore ESOPs. And I think the Baker Center could provide some great examples of success for all ESOP stakeholders: the employee, the owner, the customer, and the surrounding community, so students can see the benefits of this business model.
Thanks, Paul. I'll allow the panelists for a point of emphasis, a story to fill this out, and I'm gonna hit a couple themes here as the Baker Center continues to move forward here. You see in the name of it, excellence, transformation. Montgomery County Community College, we talk about momentum. An object at rest is at rest, an object in motion stays in motion. And how do we get it in motion? How do we get it moving forward here? What stories, what points of emphasis do you want to make? And then I'll also encourage our panelists as well. There's a few questions that we have in our chat as well, if you do want to highlight anything specific that you're seeing that we might be able to inform our audience on as well.
Yeah, let me say a very famous story I've been telling quite a bit, and I'm sure Ed Renninger is going to roll his eyes because he's probably heard it 10 times. So this is an example of what the transformation of the mindset can be within an organization that has employees versus owners. So I do MBWA every day that's managing by wandering around. We have a 244,000 square foot building. We have all sorts of equipment. We have fork trucks bringing raw materials to the production lines, and fork trucks bringing finished goods back into the warehouse. So one day I see one of the fork truck drivers, he's laying a patch with the fork truck. He's spinning the wheels, and he's beating up the fork truck. He's beating up the wheels of the fork truck, and he's beating up even the floor of the operation. And so I go up to him and I say, "Why is it that you're beating up your fork truck?" And he kind of goes like this. And I say, "Here's a better question. Why are you beating up Joe's fork truck? Because he owns that fork truck too." And his head goes down. It's a different conversation because they own all of the equipment. They own the racking, they own the extruders, they own that fork truck, they own the scrap that they're creating with making that product. And if they make less scrap, if they take care of the equipment, they actually put more money into their pocket. So that's an example of just a very small example of how employee ownership can actually make a company more profitable.
I want to add to that. Ken often comes to my class and he talks about the benefits of ESOPs, mostly from a financial perspective for the owner and for the employees. And my classes are marketing classes, so I kind of look at it from a different angle, and we argue back and forth on who's going to take credit for the 5th P of marketing, which is people. And we haven't trademarked it or copyrighted it yet, but we often go back and forth about that. But I look at it from a marketing perspective. How does your company differentiate itself externally to your customers or your potential customers? And I think we're in a environment today where we accept mediocre or standard customer service. I think we just let things go by the wayside a lot as far as our interactions and our experiences with companies. And I think the ESOP provides an opportunity for those employee owners to wow the customer. That's another example that Ken Baker shows in my class of how we use marketing or how we wow the customer. And I think when you have an empowered employee, one that knows that they can make decisions and they can go out and satisfy that customer in a lot of ways, I think that I think those customers will have a better experience and you'll have a more loyal customer. So I think that's another important reason of ESOPs and how we can set ourselves apart from all the other businesses and organizations and competition locally, but also globally as well.
Thanks, Paul. Ed?
Yeah, sure. I'll just maybe I'll answer some of the questions that people had, so that we can get some of those answered. And I do actually appreciate Ken's story. I have heard it many times, but I actually have stolen it and I use it regularly because it tells a good story. Yes. So Kevin McPhillips asked, what if my employees don't have money to purchase the shares? And I'm glad he asked that because it exposes one of the myths around ESOPs, and it ties into what someone else asked, which is, how do you set up an ESOP? The reality is the employees really are not buying the stock. They actually don't even own the stock directly. What we're effectively doing is we're using the ESOP, which is a type of a retirement plan, as it's a trust that we create for the benefit of the employees. And the way we finance it, the way we purchase it is we do it from future company profits. Effectively, we're paying for the ESOP purchase from future company profits. Sometimes we'll borrow money from a bank to help finance it, but we're going to pay that down out of future company profits. Sometimes we'll borrow money from the selling shareholder to help fund the transaction, but again, we're going to pay that back with profits from the business. But the beauty is that when you look at the cash flow of an ESOP company and you compare it to the same company that's not an ESOP, the tax benefits that the company has are significantly enough that the business performs better. It has more free cash flow available to be able to pay that debt down and to be more profitable. And that's part of the reason why when you look at the statistics, when you look, for example, at the number of employees who are terminated during a recession, this goes back, there was a study done during the 08-09 recession, when you had the former mortgage housing crisis, 4 times less likely. Employees at ESOP companies are 4 times less likely to be terminated during that recession than employees at other companies, because ESOPs have more free cash flow to be able to finance the transaction and to be able to operate and weather downturns like that. So at the end of the day, we're creating a trust for the benefit of the employees that also lets us, on a very tax efficient manner, be able to pay that back.
Ken, go ahead.
All right. I'm kind of reading the questions here and trying to come up with. Here's one for Ken. How does he go about developing the next generation of leadership? And that's an extremely important question. See, part of my job is to make sure that we do have a succession plan for the organization. And part of that succession plan is ownership transfer, but it's also leadership transfer as well. So part of my job is to actually is to start grooming leadership within the organization, and we're doing that with training. We're doing that with hiring some very talented people outside the organization. So I think about this all the time, and it's very important to me to do that. So if there is a person a selling shareholder that wants to do an ESOP and wants to do 100% and transfer all their shares to the ESOP and then leave the company, it's a good idea that that selling shareholder has developed out a leadership to actually take on that role when the selling shareholder has departed.
Yeah, it's really important stuff, right? Just selling your company to an ESOP, whether it's part of the company or all of the company, doesn't solve the problem of management succession. And the reality is you need to have a highly competent management team to be able to run the company. And it's the same thing that any other company has to deal with. But what makes it a little more challenging for an ESOP company is that in a normal for-profit company, the owner is the one who is taking charge and making sure that the business is running well, because they're the one getting the personal benefit at the end of the day. When you have an ESOP and the benefit is more widely distributed, it takes a more focused thinking through having a good management team. What we'll often do in some cases we'll create a management incentive plan that will add an additional benefit to them that can go above and beyond the ESOP, so that we can align those interests in a way that we can still get high quality management at an ESOP company.
So there is another question here about how the center is going to accelerate all of this. Well, we're going to develop out, there's already curriculum already developed in the ESOP world, and we have access to that curriculum, and we're going to build our own curriculum for the center. And so we're going to actually teach and educate selling shareholders and employees about all the aspects of ESOPs, how they work, and how they can benefit their company. And so we're going to be providing certificates of learning of these different skill sets. And you will have professors like Professor Ed doing some of that work, hopefully, and some of his team.
Thanks, Ken, and thanks, Ed, for that context. I'm going to come back to Dave here. Dave, you and I, in our roles, we get to go out and visit quite a few companies. And, we also, I think you've been very much on the ground in hearing how companies have been working their way through COVID and being able to receive some support here and there and continue to move forward. My experience has been, as I visited ESOP companies, I get an energy. There's a sense of contribution, of connection. I don't know if that's been the same for you, and how can we have more of that? How can we have more of that dynamic feel from the employees, from the owners, as they envision together growing their company?
Well, that's just it. There is a different energy to it and a very different conversation around it, and you do sense it. Oftentimes, you see it in a variety of different ways. Just in how folks talk about the work that they do and what it means to the overall. And I think that's an important consideration. There's quite a few studies out there right now about what the next generational workforce is looking for, what's going to excite them, what's going to, get them in the room, in the building. Understanding the why is something that comes up very often, not the how necessarily. They need to understand that to be successful, obviously, in their work, but to feel empowered or actualized by their work, they want to understand the why. What does it all mean? What's this all about? Why do we do this a certain way? Why do we use this piece of equipment? Why? And again, if you have ownership in that process, and that's again, why if it's part of you, if it's part of what you do, it adds a certain level of pride to that work. It adds a certain level of, obviously, the compensation that comes along with that. And it answers that kind of question, that motivational thing that they're looking for to keep that. You mentioned momentum earlier, and that motivation, that momentum, that's what drives people to continue to develop their skills, to get better at what they do, to look at newer, more efficient ways of what they do, which again benefits them in an ESOP in a different kind of way, right? That matters a lot, which comes back to the momentum of the community college, because our community college is obviously critical in our workforce training here in Montgomery County. This is another component to that now, having the Baker Center. So all of these things, again, it just starts to align together, and you just keep building and building and building. But yeah, absolutely, the opportunity there for that kind of energy and ownership. And again, to get to that why, that motivational question that we hear more and more for the next generation entering the workforce, it presents that opportunity to have that through an ESOP.
Thank you, Dave. We're doing well on time here, and we have an opportunity for a few final words. If anybody has a point of emphasis or an additional story that they would want to share, I welcome those at this time.
I think that we really have to talk about it from a societal standpoint. We as business managers, business owners, business educators really have to start talking about what's good for society. Does the private equity model that has been pervasive for the last 2 or 3 decades, has that really done the job for us and for society in general? Or has it enriched just a handful of people at the top? And so how do we change that? How do we really do some fundamental things in society where we can change this whole income inequality? Because there's a lot of discussion about that, and it is driving a lot of things. And we have the business model right in front of us. The laws are all passed. It's all ready to go. And what we need is awareness. We need awareness to people like myself to actually take up the reins and do the right thing for the company, for their employees, for the community, and for society in general. It's really a societal thing.
Yeah, and that dovetails perfectly with the point that I was making earlier, right? Which is our biggest competition is lack of awareness. We need to get the message out there, and people need to understand the opportunities. Yeah, I'll just share a couple other statistics, and this ties into the story that Ken told about, the forklift. The reality is when you get to the point where a cycle can go in one of two directions. It can become a vicious cycle where it kind of degrades over time, or it can become a virtuous cycle. And the goal is that with education and employees starting to understand how the decisions they make on the margins have an impact on the bottom line is the profitability of the business. And that's what translates into value at the end of the day. That's what leads to growth in stock price. That's what leads to retirement wealth. So when they start understanding, and this takes years, this takes a lot of discussion, a lot of education, but when employees really start understanding it, they start making smarter decisions. They start making decisions that on the margins add up to a large cumulative effect over time. And that's why, for example, why ESOP companies, now I'm not looking at the employee perspective, but really the company perspective. So even just from a purely corporate perspective, the company's productivity tends to be 4 to 5% higher than non-ESOP companies. And it's because of that cumulative effect you get from that over time, higher job growth. So they're able to hire people easier. They have a higher return on assets, higher sales, anywhere from 2 to 2.5% higher sales per year. It's just all over the place when you look at the statistics of performance of ESOP companies. And that's not taxes. You can't have higher sales because taxes are lower, right? You can't point to the tax benefits causing it. That's driven purely by that virtuous cycle that you get when your employees really start understanding the benefits of an ESOP and how it flows to the bottom line.
Thanks, Ed. Any other final words?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off what Ed said, there is this small sense of pride when you're a part of an ESOP company. I mean, everybody's talking about the why and momentum and what can we do for society and just look at the current fiscal climate. I mean, you have a lot of younger people really thinking about, how they can make it in this world and how they can create a good future. And that's great. I think it's really good that young people are thinking that far ahead. And yeah, there is this sense of pride. I mean, you're your own reason for success or failure at an ESOP company. It's kind of just as easy as to say it like that. I mean, your company's only going to be as successful as the owners want it to be. And I think if you're a capitalist and you want to make a lot of money, you work yourself, when I started in the trades, I was just a pipe fitter's apprentice, and I mean, there's a lot of success stories at IT Landis, and I'm sure a lot of success stories at Ken's business, and I think it'll drive people to work harder if they know they're working for something.
Yeah,
Thank you. Ford.
that's very good advice. I wanted some of the chat information wants to get a little bit more deep into some of the details of how an ESOP works. The Baker Center will be providing coursework on exactly how does it work, how does it benefit, how to how to work with your lawyer, how to work with your finance person. I mean, all this type of information will be disclosed and talked about and educated about. We're going to have multiple courseworks. So stay tuned. It's coming.
That's exactly what I want to share, Ken. Thank you, Ken, Dave, Ford, Paul, Ed, for your wonderful contributions to this panel. This is the beginning of a conversation that will continue and grow. And we are really excited to convene this panel, and we're really appreciate all the attendees. This will be certainly a two-way conversation. It's expertise that we're able to bring together, but then the questions and the insight that many other participants will bring into this conversation. We want to be able to convene that through the Baker Center. I want to thank President Bestecki Perez for helping to organize this panel and this conversation and to be able to create this opportunity. Thank Representative Nelson and the Board of Directors of Montgomery County Community College for their support. We greatly appreciate it. I encourage participants to check out the new Baker Center website. Is live and active on our Montgomery County Community College website. Just search for Baker Center and you'll see more information about where we'll be going with this. We're also looking forward to naming an executive director for the Baker Center within the next several weeks or month. And that should be an exciting opportunity to really continue to grow this program. We'll be creating a mailing list from the participants in this webinar, as well as adding to that as we continue to move forward. And so we'll be sharing out more information. Please follow Montgomery County Community College on all of our social media feeds, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. There are so many good things that are happening both within our programs here and across the college that you don't want to be able to miss out. And finally, again, we thank Ken for his just very generous contribution for convening this. We look forward to much more to come as we move forward with this. And again, thank you to all of our panelists for your time and your energy and your insight here today. That concludes our webinar, and enjoy your day.